Hello, my name is Pablo Peon, and today I will talk about what I've learned about violence in Mexico regarding the social, economic, political, and environmental aspect. One aspect that was new for me regarding this topic was the severity of the issue. I was aware that violence was an issue here in Mexico or all around the world, but I wasn't aware how big this issue was and how concerned we should be. And I also noticed how a lot of the times the government or other big organizations try to hide these things from us. They try to hide the fact that Mexico is a very corrupt and violent place. And that is something that I already knew, but I wasn't aware to what extent this problem had reached. Another thing that was a surprise for me was how much drug cartels and drug lords have to do with violence. Again, I was aware that this was an issue, but I wasn't aware of how much these people affect the violence. The vast majority of homicides or violent related acts are from drug lords or drug cartel or people who are within those circles. The issue of violence here in Mexico isn't 100% correlated to the violence all around the world. But what I can say is that the issues that cause violence here in Mexico are many times the same or similar in other places. What this means is that every other country in the world also has a lot of violence. There's not a single country that has no violence. Of course, there are countries like Finland or other northern European countries that don't have as much violence. But in the end, every single country has issues. And a lot of them share the same issues like the ones that we have here in Mexico. The research and discussion in class helped me change my mind and change my perspective on this issue. Before I thought that the violence here in Mexico or around the world generally related only with the politics or the social aspect of life, but we also saw it from an economic and also from an environmental aspect. And this helped me notice that it's not always the same. A lot of times, violence affects the environment or is related with the environment. For example, I had to research violence in Africa, and I found out that the scarcity and the need for resources in their natural habitat are pretty much related to the violence. And not only did these presentations and class discussions help me warp my image on this issue, it also helped me realize that we need to see the bigger picture sometimes. I only focused on the political and social aspect of this, and when I broadened my view of the issue, I found out a lot of things and I understood the issue a lot more. In conclusion, I realized that violence is an issue that is very concerning, not only here in Mexico, but all around the world. I also can conclude that to solve these issues, we have to open up our minds a little bit more, look at things with a more open mind, and look outside the box. Because when you only focus on the social and political aspect of these issues, you may solve a lot of things. There are other two main things that we are not taking into account. And maybe to solve these issues, we must look at the bigger picture. Another thing that I can conclude is that violence itself sometimes comes from bigger corporations and the government and not so much people. Sometimes the richest and most powerful people are the ones most responsible for these issues. And as Don Henley said, sometimes a man with a briefcase can steal millions more than a man with a gun.